I have got another Meet the Owner for you guys today, and today we're talking to Jesse. Hi Jesse, how you doing?
Hi Nick, nice to meet you.
And you. So this is your boat behind us.
This is not waiting.
And what sort of boat is it?
It's a Chaparral 2835 limited edition. So it's an American 1999 sports cuddy.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess they're used on the lakes quite a lot over in America. Quite a popular boat, but also a really good seagoing boat with a 22-degree sort of dead rise. So it performs well.
Nice. Yeah. It's a good looking boat actually, and it's very much that sort of low, sleek look rather than the sort of the quite often you see their cruiser style where they're quite built up quite high.
Yeah, no, I think it's aged quite well. Yeah, it sort of holds its, well, what's it, nearly 25 years old. Yeah. So I think it's still looking good. It's not a very volumey boat for a 28 foot. You know, it's a predominantly sports boat. Yep. Hence the name, not waiting. It gets up sort of 45, 50 knots.
Fantastic.
So it doesn't hang around. What makes it quite special is it's got the twin 6-cylinder Yamaha diesels in it. So
okay.
The Toyota Land Cruiser engines.
I'm going to guess those weren't original.
From what I can see, they are original.
Oh really? That's unusual in an American boat, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It would have had twin V8s, and you can actually see in the engine bay, there is sort of space for the V8 engine mounts, and then they've made adapter plates.
Wow.
But the original owner sold it in 2009 in Wales. Yep. And it had the engines in back then. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Fair enough. Excellent. Let's take a look on board if we may. And you've done a bit to this. Now it's probably worth mentioning, I think, your day job.
My day job, I'm a chief engineer on a super yacht now.
Excellent.
So I've brought a lot of stuff from the super yachting and scaled it down, of course, but brought it on here, so it's got the light up name letters.
I noticed that. Yep. Yeah. Very smart.
I'll flick them on. You might just about be able to see them.
Yeah. Oh yes, you can definitely. Yep.
I think I'm going to put a dimmer on them because they are very. Like, I've sat in Paynton or Torquay, and yeah, it does stand out a lot. The worst thing is when you're backing in here at night and you're just getting blinded off them. So I'm going to put a momentary switch, and just so you can dim them up and down. Brilliant,
brilliant. And what else have you done? Oh, you were talking to me earlier about your ensign stuff and your shower, which I thought was ingenious.
Yeah, so I've put on a mixer tap. The port engine, I've connected a plate heat exchanger, so you can have hot water, hot, cold, and then I've got a shower just in here. So I sort of use it as a deck wash, so you can plug in your deck wash and wash the boat off. Yep. And then also I machined this up, so you can plug this in into there. Put him on there. The idea of it was to be telescopic. Right. The tube that I got wasn't seamless and it wouldn't slide into it, so this is version 1.0. And then you can straighten it up a bit with that's an aerial mount. Yep. But yeah, you can straighten it up and
that's ingenious.
Have a shower on the back.
I love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and the deck wash, because it's got the hot water, you can rinse the boat off with hot water.
Yeah.
Where I am here, it's a long way down the hose, so it's actually easier just to give it a rinse off from my own water tank. So. Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, that's really good. Yeah, the idea is it will be telescopic eventually. Right. And have an anchor light as well. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's great. And it stores away quite easy. In there.
And this is a predominantly cockpit orientated boat, I think it's probably fair to say, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So I thought about putting, because it didn't have cooking facilities when I got it. Right. I thought about putting them inside. Yeah. And actually, it's a sociable boat outside, and inside essentially is just set up for the sleeping accommodation. Yeah. So yeah, when I was away at work, the carpenter on the boat assisted. We made up this teak top. Fantastic. Hot and cold. Yep. I got some hobs from Italy and then made a new plate. I took a template away with me, and then yeah, so now it's got gas hobs and a sort of little chopping type board. That's fantastic. So yeah, it works quite well. I've had it in the water a couple months now since I've been home. Yep. We've just been endlessly cooking on it. The carpenter also assisted me in making a teak table for it. Brilliant. Yep. The idea it's folding is because this whole engine hatch opens. Yeah. So you can just fold that over and open the hatch.
Yes,
whereas
of course.
before you're constantly pulling it out and people are in the way and you want to show them the engines. And
cockpit tables can be a bit of a nightmare on smaller boats, can't they?
The other thing is it's got cut-off keys in under here.
Right.
And there was an S key, which I don't really use the S key, so I use that for the fenders in under there.
Yep.
But this year I haven't been turning the cut-off keys off because I've been on shore power.
Right.
The other idea is it's easy to dive in. And the other thing, when you've got a table there, you've got to sort of shuffle him round, whereas now it's quite practical just to get in and out.
Definitely.
And you're not sort of shuffling.
Yeah, so I think that's a really, really good idea. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. And under the floor here?
Under the floor here, just good storage. It's got a vacuum system, so where it was an American boat, it's got a vacuum sewage tank. I'm guessing around 100-litre water tank.
Right.
And then the sewage tank you can either discharge to a shore facility or overboard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite a small boat to have a vacuum toilet on.
Definitely.
So
yeah.
I've sort of thought about getting rid of it because it's just more components and more maintenance, but at the minute it works, so
fair enough.
Keeping it, but yeah, just good storage. It's got the oil for the engine.
Yeah, that's what you gain, isn't it, by not having the mid cabin?
Yeah,
because with the mid cabin you lose all of that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think in the future I'd like something a bit more volumey, so you've got the extra accommodation, but for now this is good. Yeah, absolutely. And so the helm then, what have we got at the helm? Already. That's okay. I think it's quite a nice looking helm. I think it's aged quite well.
Yep.
So it's on the typical American gears and then throttle separate.
Yeah, I saw that. That's interesting.
I actually quite like it. You know, when you're manoeuvring, you've got to make sure you either look right or left.
Yep.
Don't do both.
Right.
So for me, it's always looking over right shoulder.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's quite nice. You can split the sticks.
Yeah.
Just let the thing tick over. If it's bias going ahead or astern, you can just give it a bit of throttle and it will drag it back.
Yep.
Or give it a bit of throttle ahead and it will drag it forward. So no, it's quite a nice layout. It's got the neutral lights up on the Yamaha panel.
These are really, really slick in and out of gear front, right? They're like a hydraulic gearbox rather than a dog gearbox, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah, clutch plates. It's just silky smooth in and out. You don't know it's selecting sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what the neutral lights are so useful, isn't it, on these?
Exactly, yeah.
Because with the traditional ones, it's sort of clunk as it goes in and out of gear, but these don't clunk at all, do they?
No, no. So yeah, that's all the engine. That's the alarm panels. The alarm panel's got quite a few things to it, but the nice thing with these engines, it's just alive to the pump.
Right.
You know, no ECU is going to cut anything. It will run no matter what.
Yeah, a lot to be said for
like
that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's got seawater flow sensors, water coolant level sensors. You know, it's got a lot of sensors.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop it running.
Yeah.
So you know, and it's got a nice alarm to it. You can hear it.
Right.
So if you're getting an alarm, you know it's there, sort of thing.
Yep. Yep.
Each engine's got a volt gauge. So yeah, that's sort of the engines. The legs are on these.
Oh, that's interesting. I've not seen that before.
No. And then the trim tabs were up here.
Right.
I've put it onto a Menti Marine auto controller.
Yep.
I think you've gone with the zip wake.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I saw them in Palma and I was really interested, and they're like the plates that drop down, aren't they?
That's right, yeah.
Whereas these are the tabs that fit up into the hull.
Yep.
So I was like, well, I could convert it, and he said a price, and I thought, that's not bad. And then when I went back to sort of almost finalise it, it was the same again just for the programme. And I was like, cool, actually, that's a bit steep now.
Right.
You know, the product was X amount,
and
then it was double again just for the programme to get them to run in auto.
Oh, okay, it's interesting.
I thought it was sort of getting a bit steep.
Yeah.
And then I looked into these, and you can run the hardware you've already got, and you just put this Menti Marine in. It learns the position, and then it runs in auto.
Fantastic.
So, and if you want, you can run them manually yourself. And the other thing that did was free up some switches to use for other things. Yeah,
that makes total sense. Yeah,
the tabs are on the. They've got a controller here, but then they've put them onto here.
So that's the outdrive trims.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant. I've not seen that done before. That's really clever.
No, they seem to like the drives down fully when you first get on plane.
Yep.
And then once you get over sort of 30 knots, you've got to start bringing them up.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to hit sort of 45 onwards, you're just tweaking them, and then you'll find it'll creep faster and faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. And how about the inside then? Ah, separate toilet on this one, that's good, because they don't always have that on the sports boats, do they? That's very nice, actually, that's cosy.
Yeah, it's not bad, it's got a little TV to the right.
Yep. Ah, yes, gotcha.
Yeah.
Very good, and the loo in here.
The loo in there.
Ideal.
I made, well, myself and the carpenter, we made some little teak access panels.
Yep, see that?
It looks a bit nicer.
It does,
My idea eventually in here is to make it look a bit more like a windy, so it's got teak inlays and all the side bits sort of white, just to modernise it. I think the carpet looks a little bit dated.
The carpet's very American, isn't it? The Americans like to put carpets on everything at this era, don't they?
No, I'm not a fan of carpet on a boat. It had a microwave, and it was just something that I knew I wasn't going to use. Yeah. If I'm going to cook on the boat, I'm generally at anchor. Yep. So that went just to make some storage. This is sort of my, I'm going to say my first season after I've actually done work on the boat. Okay. So I've done a few of the modifications, and now we're just sort of learning what works, what doesn't. Absolutely. What we're going to do for the future. It's not until you've owned and used a boat that you really understand what you want from a boat. Yeah. I think you tailor it to yourself. Totally. Yeah. Totally. The storage wise around the edge with all the cutlery and stuff seems to work well. Yeah. I thought instantly I'd have to make plate rack, you know, and cup rack, but they all seem to sort of stay in place at the minute. Yeah, no, fair enough. Maybe I'm not driving it enough in anger. And I like all the personalised crockery and mats and everything else there. So when I first got the boat home, the next day a friend of mine, Mark Saunders, did a drone shoot of it, because I was really proud of it, so I sent him a message. I drove it down from Poole, and he said, yep, let's do it, 6 AM sunrise. Brilliant. So I went for a smoke about, and this is one of the pictures. So over Christmas I put the picture on paint and drew over it to make essentially a logo like a Superyacht's got. Yeah, that's brilliant. So it's only made on paint, and then I'm going to go further with it. Hopefully I'll put it onto cushions and, you know, just keep going, why not? But yeah, it's a bit of a sort of Superyacht touch. Totally. Yeah, it personalises it, doesn't it? Yeah, little bit of downtime on the yacht, and I made up a nice logo. So. Fantastic. Yeah. Let's have a look at the engines then, if we may. Yep. Quite a few comments when you open this up. People say, "Well, that's a bit flash." Yeah, that's nice and proud though, isn't it? Yeah. Fantastic. There they are. Yeah. So, talk us through these then. So these are, they call them ME420s. Right. So essentially, they're a Toyota Land Cruiser engine from like the 80 series. They came out in late 80s, early 90s. Yep. They used the Hydrodrive V8 gearbox and changed the ratio because the diesel's lower revving. Yep. But the box was strong enough, or the legs were strong enough to take the diesel power. Yep. But these engines are they're just bomb-proof. They've got the bottom of the blocks, a laddered block, so the crank sits up inside. It doesn't have separate main bearing caps. It just has a ladder. The whole bottom of the block bolts on, so you know the bottom ends are just dead strong. They use a special system. They don't have a wastegate on the turbo. Right. They use a boost control on the inlet. That's how they get around their lag. Whereas Pentas, they put a supercharger on to get it up and going. But they did something different. But yeah, these are just 6-cylinder, real free revving. They'll rev on to sort of 4,200. That's pretty high, isn't it, for a diesel? It is, yeah. Yeah. And they just sound, to me, it just sounds proper. Right. You know, it's just got that. I remember when I was a kid from home, which we're just up Hill Head, and used to hear the pilot boat going out, and I always thought, I want a pilot boat one day. But it had that 6-cylinder, that woo. Yeah, you can't beat the sound of a straight 6, I don't think. No. So yeah, but they're a predominantly commercial engine. So you'll see a lot of these day trip boats will have them on. Yeah. Japanese fishing boats. So the nice thing is they're commercial diesel engines that are bomb-proof in a little sports boat. Yeah, absolutely. So it's just a great combination. When I saw it for sale, I was just like, I bought a boat a few months before, single engine, smaller cuddy cabin Chaparral. Yep. And then I saw this, and that was it. I was sold. I couldn't not buy it. No, absolutely. Yeah, and these engines, so I've done custom K&N filters.
Right.
filters, because they would have had paper element type.
Okay, that's these chaps at the back.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can just clean them through and re-oil them.
Yep.
The original ones are like a couple £100 plus VAT each paper, so they breathe well, and actually on full throttle now you can hear the turbos a bit more, which I like.
Yep.
They've got custom stainless spray rings, so these are like a weak point.
Okay.
On most engines.
Yep.
Or most marine engines. And these would have been cast iron originally, so they just fall apart.
Right.
It's got these stainless, I've done the stainless braid oil feed lines and the coolant lines.
Oh yes.
They're prone to blowing all your oil out and blowing your engine up.
Right, yep.
So
that's worth having then.
Done that upgrade.
Yeah.
And then just rebuilt the water pumps, changed the timing belts, just worked through general maintenance stuff.
Yeah.
But they're only on just over 800 hours now, so they only just run in, really.
Totally, yeah, that's nothing, is it? If you think about those in a commercial environment, you'd do that in less than a year, wouldn't you?
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, our generators, you know, you're putting thousands of hours a year on.
Yeah.
So these could do that. They're commercial enough to do it, but
yeah, no, they're very, very unstressed in this environment, aren't they?
they really are. Yeah. It's got a 650 litre fuel tank.
Okay. Yep.
So that gives you ample fuel.
Yep.
When I bought it had the batteries down this side. And just stuff dotted about, old stuff. So I've tidied them away. The batteries are under the fridge here.
Right.
Just you've got good access down the sides.
Yeah, totally.
For working on it, and then it had a fuel filter down this side and one here. So I put a pair of Raycor.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Port is port, starboard is starboard.
Yeah.
Someone had connected it up so the return from the diesel went back to the filter. So if you get any air in, you've got it stuck in the loop.
Right.
So I basically put T's in this return, this air pipe.
Yeah.
And I've got the engines returning back to the fuel tank.
Fantastic.
So it bleeds the air out better.
Yep.
I think someone just got confused, but I found a lot of things on the boat like it.
Yeah.
You know, people try and attempt it themselves, and that's kind of not the way it should be done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Yeah.
It's got the little engine, because I've got the same little clips on the back that you've got.
Right, the snap davits. Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a little Avon rib, and then a little
Ideal.
air-cooled Honda. So that clicks on the back.
Ideal.
Yeah. Nice. You see a little mixer tap up in there.
Ah, yes.
All these pushed together water pipes, so you can add teas in and as you please.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Very, very nice. Very smart. Oh, and it's pretty clean for the age of boat as well, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, no, it's been well looked after. I'm the third owner now. The previous owners owned it from 2009 until last year when I bought it.
Yep.
One was a marine engineer, and it's lived on a dry stack all its life.
Right.
So I'm only really putting it in for sort of 6 weeks, 2 months at a time.
Okay.
And then that's it. I take it home again while I'm away at work.
Yeah.
So it's sort of getting nursed through its life, which is good. I think it should go on for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's all right. While it's open, I can give them a flash up if you want.
Yeah, why not? And you said top speed about 45 knots?
Yeah, 45-ish. I reckon it runs out of prop. I reckon if you propped it differently, it would go on.
Right.
Earlier.
Yeah, there's so little vibration, isn't there, through the boat?
Yeah, and you've got the redundancy of 2 as well.
Of course,
You've got a very reliable engine and 2.
Yeah, yeah.
That's nice.
That's brilliant. Fantastic. So shall we have a quick sit down and have a little chat about, firstly, what you've done with the boat? I guess if you've only had it a year, you've probably not been that far yet?
No, the plan was, like this time home especially, I wanted to get down to Salcombe, but it's such a nice area where we live. I'm just, over to Teignmouth, Dartmouth, Torquay, Paynton, and that seems to be enough, overnighting here and there. And I live quite a busy life anyway, so that seems to suffice so far.
Yeah, fantastic. And tell me about, because I'm sure everyone's going to be curious about this, tell me about the yacht crewing. How long have you been doing that?
Okay, so when I was 16, I went away to Newcastle and did a 3-year cadetship. And then I worked on container ships once I passed that for 8 years with Maersk and got up to first engineer. And then someone offered me a crossing on a superyacht, which is basically taking it from the Mediterranean to the Caribbean.
Oh, okay, yep.
So it was just a temp crossing while the second engineer was on leave.
Yep.
And then after that, they sort of phoned me again and again for yard periods and crossings. And I've stuck with that same boat ever since. So that was 2017 up until now. I can't say whose boat it is.
No, of course.
It's a famous rock band.
Right, okay, so, fair enough. And what size boat is it?
50 metre.
Wow, okay.
584 gross ton.
Yeah, so it's a serious bit of kit then.
Yeah, it is, and I've met some great people, crew and sort of rich and famous.
Yeah, of course.
Which is, it's just been sometimes you pinch yourself, you know.
Yeah.
You just can't believe you're doing it. I do 10 weeks on, 10 weeks off, and I rotate with another chief engineer. He lives out in Mallorca, and it's just it's a dream. It's great.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so, how long have you been doing that now as sort of permanent crew, as it were?
2020 is when I signed to that boat full time.
Okay,
so 4 years.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So you've been through the pandemic with it then, I guess?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
That must have been a tricky time.
It was, moving around, and depends which side of the table you were on, but I decided not to get the jab.
Yep, fair enough.
So that made it a bit more tricky again.
Yep.
But they in the end they were accommodating enough that I kept my job.
Excellent.
And then it's sort of all gone in the past now.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah. Well, the what was it? They promised us a winter of death for all the unvaccinated. That didn't quite seem to work out like they promised, did it?
Yeah.
Fortunately, but you
know. I'm not too sociable anyway, so I sort of, I hid away from it, and I was alright. I don't remember being ill through the whole thing, so managed to avoid it.
Fair enough. And one thing that we get talked about a lot on the super yacht tours is the crew accommodation. How do you find the crew accommodation? Because a lot of people say, oh, it all looks very small for the crew and that kind of thing, but how do you find it?
I mean, I think if I was permanent I'd struggle.
Right.
It is quite limiting.
Yep.
You share cabins, and my cabin's not too bad. I'm the chief, so I've got a double bed, but I still share with the chef.
Right.
But for a 10 week...
Presumably not in the double bed though.
No, thankfully. No, he's on top bunk.
Yeah.
But yeah, for 10 weeks it's manageable.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a bit of an adventure.
Yeah, sure.
The thing is, the container ships, you had, when I got up to first engineer, you had your own cabin, ensuite bathroom, day room, office, and you're there alone for 3-4 months. So you've got all this space, which is great.
Yeah.
But what for really? So
yeah, that's a very good point.
The super yacht, you sort of socialising and going out, and you've got the crew mess there, and I quite enjoy it. I don't mind the accommodation.
And it must be quite a lot of camaraderie, I would have thought, with the crew on a boat like, because you're all very much working together, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the engineers can sort of hide away from a lot of the dramas, which is good. But yeah, no, it is. The deck crew, for sure, there's a lot of fun and banter, and because they're working close together and it's a team of them.
Yes.
I think the engineers, we sort of stay under the radar as much as possible.
I was once told by a super yacht engineer that the engineer job is the best job on the yacht because it's the only job where you don't have to mix with the guests at all if you don't want to.
No, I'm best not to have an opinion on it. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But he was very happy to be an engineer. He thought that was a great job.
Yeah. No, I am. I mean, from when I was young, I grew up on a small holding, and I was exposed to mechanical engineering and tinkering and taking stuff apart, and it's just in my blood. I don't think I could do anything else, even if it's a sewage pump or a injection pump on an engine or doing the tappets on the main engines. I couldn't do anything else.
No, fair enough. And where have you been on the yacht? Where is the normal sort of areas that it cruises? It's
Mediterranean, Caribbean.
Right.
So we do summer Med and winter Caribbean. Yeah. And then it sort of just depends. It's a busy owner and charter boat.
Oh, okay.
So it just depends where the owners and charters want to be.
Yeah.
Whether it's Croatia, Greece, or Amalfi Coast and France. And then we head over to Antigua and do sort of St Martin and St Bart's, Antigua, and that's from December until sort of April time, May.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, and we cross over the Atlantic twice a year.
Yeah, and are you normally on that crossing?
Just depends where my rotation syncs up, basically.
Course,
yeah.
Of course, but you've done a few, obviously, I take it.
Yeah.
Have you any particularly bad weather going across?
Yeah, we have, and we had issues with a steering gear pump once. We left the Canaries, and we were a day out of the Canaries, and we sort of broached a wave, and she dropped in sideways, you know, over 45 degrees plus, and stuff smashing. So the captain was called, and he came through, and he spun the boat round on the engines because we've lost steering.
Right.
And we're heading back for the Canaries, really.
Yeah.
And soon after that, we sorted the steering issue and cracked on again. So.
Right.
Yeah, it's when it goes wrong quick.
Yes, yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. And what's the funniest or most intriguing story from your super yacht experience? Probably not mentioning any names.
Don't know. There's been a few.
Right.
Don't know.
It must be. It must feel like stepping off the world, I would think. It's into a completely different environment, isn't it?
It is, yeah. No, it is. I have to sort of pinch myself sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, there's been a lot. For me, like we had a stabiliser fail, and it was New Year's Eve, and I was with the other chief at the time, and we had to refabricate a way of putting the old pin back in, and we had Prodigy diesel power on full blast on the speakers, and so it's probably not a normal story people would say, but for me that was finishing at 3 in the morning in the Caribbean somewhere, fixing the stabiliser, sat with the captain and chief, and you know, having a beer after. Yeah. I think for me things like that are quite special, but maybe that's from the container ship days as well. You know, when you as a team you've got to sort it out. You haven't got a choice, you know. Yeah, of course. And then when you get to the end of it, you're a real team. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. It must make the idea of a normal 9-to-5 sort of office job. I mean, that must be so far off your radar, I would imagine. Yeah, no, I couldn't do that. No. I like my balance. I do 10 weeks on, 10 weeks off. Yeah. And then it allows me to play with stuff like this. Yep. And I try and merge the lives together as much as possible. The lad actually that made these, he lives in Mallorca, but he's coming over to visit family, and he's going to next week come and see me, and we're going to go out on this. So yeah, you meet some lovely people. Yeah, that's fantastic. Brilliant. Well, Jesse, that's been fascinating, both the boat and your story about the super yacht life. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me down. And there we go, that is about the size of that. As ever, let me know what you think in the comments, and as ever, we'll catch you on another one of these real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.